Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about a well-known Christmas tradition known as the Advent calendar. The tradition of the Advent calendar is one that I find to be one of the more fascinating aspects of Christmas. It has such a deep history and adds such a whimsical element to the celebration of the holidays, and I just love it. Not only will I be making my very own Advent calendar, which you can follow along if you like, but I'll also be getting into the origins of the holiday and how you could implement it into your holiday preparations of this year. This tradition actually started back in the mid-19th century with German families where they would tally chalk marks on a wall or door frame in the lead up to Christmas. Some variations included burning an Advent candle or hanging up religious pictures in the days leading up to Christmas. The popularity of printed calendars, though, spread with the help of a German printer named Gerard Lang, who in his younger years had a handmade Advent calendar that was made by his mother with little candies attached. Inspired by this in his adulthood, Lang began designing and printing cardboard Advent calendars at the turn of the century, and later on in the 1920s came up with the idea of little doors that can open with verses hidden behind them. The design took off, and several other printing companies began making their own versions of Advent calendars, and after the end of World War II, American GIs brought the idea back home with them to the Americas, and Advent calendars just took off. Their popularity also was boosted by pictures of President Dwight Eisenhower opening up an Advent calendar with his grandchildren in the late 1950s. By then, Advent calendars began to incorporate things like small gifts and chocolates and sweets hidden behind the doors. Since then, Advent calendars have just grown in popularity, and they don't necessarily have to be within a religious context anymore. Most calendars contain either 24 or 25 days on them, with Christmas commonly being celebrated on the 24th and the 25th of December. Originally, though, the first day of Advent was the first day of a new liturgical calendar and would start a 4-week period of preparation for the Nativity of Christ at Christmas. However, since the length of the Advent season changes each year, it was easier to choose a standard set of days that could be reused and repurposed each year for the designs, thus the 24 or more commonly 25 days. In making my very own Advent calendar, I was really inspired by this fabric one I initially found on Pinterest. It was by a company called Avery Rowe, and I'm pretty sure this is made for children, but I really love the Christmas tree design, and I thought it had a vintage, older feel. So I decided to use it as my primary source of inspiration. I found this lovely green fabric at the thrift store to use, that was really cheap actually, and began making the pattern. I didn't follow any specific pattern, I just came up with it as I went, as I usually tend to do. The measurements are 100 centimeters in height and 50 centimeters width at the bottom. Though I will say, if you're planning to do this at home, add some more width to the tree because mine turned out to be a tad narrow. The pockets took me a while to figure out though. I think I sat there for a good 15 minutes scratching my head, but I got there eventually. Each pocket is a 9 by 9 centimeter square with 1 centimeter allowance, and there are 24 pockets total. To make sure the calendar would be sturdy, I decided to add this scrap green fleece fabric that I already had to pad out the tree and help with durability, because I thought the green fabric was slightly too thin to stand on its own. I sewed it all together and turned it inside out. And to help it look more finished, I added a decorative line of stitching around the edge. For the star on top, I eyeballed a star pattern yet again. And use this burgundy atlas. I know it looks brown on camera, but trust me, it's red. I added a loop so the calendar could be hung up. And stuff the star with polyester fluff before sewing it onto the tree. I cut out the pockets from the same green fabric and began to embroider the days leading up to Christmas in red embroidery thread. I am in no way a professional at embroidery, so please don't judge my skills. I know they're not the best. And yes, I am aware you're supposed to embroider the fabric with an embroidery hoop before you cut the pattern out to avoid warping the fabric, but quite frankly, I didn't want to spend even more time on this since I knew it was going to take a while, so I'm just embroidering directly onto the fabric. And everything turned out just fine in the end anyway. After all of the days were done, I began embroidering lots of little pictures and images onto the pockets like mushrooms, holly, snowflakes, and ice skates. I also decorated them with ribbons, buttons, and bells, everything that reminds me of the holidays and the Christmas season. All this was a bit time-consuming, I will say. It took me about a week to finish, but I think it was well worth it and definitely helped fuel the pre-holiday preparation excitement. I'm honestly very proud of how these turned out. I think they look super sweet and add to the woodland aesthetic. Now all that was left was to sew the pockets onto the calendar itself. I made sure to iron down all the seam allowances to make it easier for myself, and began the process of pinning the pockets to the tree and sewing them securely on. Initially, I was concerned that the pockets would be too small to fit anything in them, but they actually turned out to be the perfect size in my opinion. After all that was done, I added this PVC pipe to the bottom of the calendar as a sort of weight to keep the fabric from folding in on itself when hung up. And to make the star a brighter shade of red, I painted it with some acrylic. And with that, our homemade woodland, somewhat vintage-inspired calendar is complete. There are many different versions of the Advent calendar. Some are cardboard or paper, like the original ones mentioned before, where you would open a little door with a Bible verse or scripture behind it that you would read aloud each day in the lead up to Christmas. Some are fabric, like the one that we just made, but there are hundreds of calendars that suit a variety of aesthetics, tastes, and home interiors. Examples of handmade calendars, though, would be one where paper or fabric bags are hung from a pretty branch or hooks on the wall. The bags can also be substituted for practically anything, such as stockings, paper cones, baskets, mittens. These are actually really simple and you could customize them however you'd like. Advent calendars out of glass jars are super affordable and easy to make. The jars could be painted and you could use a wide variety of sizes of jars to make the calendar either as big or smaller, as unique as you would like. If you find yourself too busy to set up an entire Advent calendar but still would like to participate in this tradition, I would suggest an Advent candle. All you really need is a standard candle, a ruler, and something to mark the days with. What you would do is mark 24 days on the candle and just light the candle each evening in the days leading up to Christmas and let it burn down to the next mark. This is such a cozy and festive way to still take part in the anticipation of the coming of Christmas. Another alternative is, instead of one candle, to have multiple candles for each day of Christmas. These could just be small tea light candles or standard candles. It really depends on you and your tastes, and you can make this as detailed and complicated or as simple as you would like. Now that our calendar is complete, it's time to fill it with lots of little goodies and treats. This will all depend on you and the people for whom the gifts are for. Of course, a universal gift is sweets, candies, and chocolate. These can be holiday themed and are generally easy to find and can also be homemade. Things such as gingerbread cookies, candied nuts, and such are a simple way to add a thoughtful and loving touch to the gift. I do think that most will be happy to receive a little sweet treat during the holidays, and it is definitely an easy and affordable option. But of course, it doesn't have to be limited to that. Another way to fill calendars is with little notes. These, of course, could be Bible verses and scripture, as mentioned before. They could just be holiday wishes, or they could be tasks. Something like making a cup of cocoa, or baking cookies, watching a holiday-themed movie, etc. These could also be paired with edible items, such as a jar of pre-made cocoa mix, popcorn kernels, and spices. I thought another sweet idea would be to add an ornament into the Advent calendar with the task of either hanging it on the tree, or perhaps it's instructions how to make a special Christmas ornament. Some other small gift ideas could be aromatic candles, essential oils, incense cones that could be holiday related to make sure that the house smells heavenly for the season. Lip balm, lipstick, and other small cosmetic items like natural aromatic soap bars could make a great universal gift. For the creative things such as stickers, decorative tape, and maybe even cookie molds could be added to the Advent calendar. Small jewelry such as earrings, necklaces, ribbons, hair ties could make a thoughtful gift and could be worn for years to come. Socks and mittens are actually a great idea as well, considering the onset of colder weather. In other words, there is no shortage of ways to fill up an Advent calendar. It just depends on your personal preferences and the preferences of the people around you. I made this advent calendar purely for myself, and personally actually don't believe that advent calendars should be reserved just for children or it's just a kid thing, because I find it every last bit as enjoyable, and it adds a certain whimsy and childlike expectation to the entire month of December that I think a lot of adults feel and would definitely appreciate. It's just such a wonderful, cozy little tradition that I truly love and hope to continue on in the future. Well, I hope that this video inspired you to make your own advent calendar and given you a bit of that holiday excitement. Maybe you even found it a little bit informative with its history. So please do let me know. Do you observe this tradition at home? Do you plan on observing this tradition in the future? I'm definitely looking forward to the holidays, and preparing for it in lots of little ways like this are one of my favorite things to do. Thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you made it to the end. I hope that you enjoyed. Have a wonderful day or night, and I will see you in the next one. Love you to bits. Bye!